let others they'll join it in middle of it. So on yesterday topic, what we have discussed about this EC2 service, and we have talked about this. How do we launch the instance? Even we gone through this launching one of the Ubuntu instance and SSH into that instance, and even we have seen how to terminate that instance. That we have talked about the type of instances and the pricing, and even we talked about the S3 calculator, how to calculate the pricing of estimated pricing of that instances. Okay, and the difference between the private IPs, the public and elastic IPs. On the last yesterday we talked about that. Uh, Let me log into this Amazon Web Services portal. Let me share my screen with you. So today, even yesterday we talked about this EBS types, magnetic, general purposes, and provision types. The basic difference between those three EBS volumes. Today, as I said today we'll talk about elastic load balancer and S3 simple. What's that? S3 stands for simple storage service. Yes. Uh, we use simple storage service for an object storage, and it's like similar to the Google Drive and Dropbox. So in S3 you'll have, apart with data, you'll find metadata and unique ID for the data and attributes of the data. So what's that? Let me tell you. So this is what an object storage. So in whatever the data you store on S3, we'll call the data as objects. So for every object, you'll have the real data of the object and unique ID of the object. ID is nothing but he'll provide a URL for the every object you store, every file you store on that S3. So, and you'll have the metadata of that object, the information about the data and attributes. So the like the permissions, who exactly what can access and who created this data, such kind of thing. So we use this object storage for this S3 simple storage service of AWS for storing the MP3 files, photos, such kind of things. Huge high volume size of disk data will store in S3, and we'll load this data directly to the client PCs. Let me draw a diagram for you so that you'll better understand it. Assume that you had a web server and you had a website in that server, and the website whatever you hosted on this web server is a dynamic website, so that it uses the database server. So in your website there is a scenario that you have to upload some of your videos or some of your movies, or you wanted to upload some of your files, pictures, documents. So where do you upload? You cannot upload movies, files, documents in database server. So you need some storage to upload that. You can upload it in web server, but if you upload that web server, the contents in a web server, what happens? మీ వెబ్ సర్వర్ మీద బర్డెన్ ఎక్కువ అవుతుందండి. So the web server has to serve the website to the thousands of clients, and also it has to take the uploads that are being uploaded by the clients. So what happens? The processor, or the RAM utilization of the web server, the network utilization of the web server, or the disk in IOPS rate of the web server will get increased, so that the performance of your web server might get slow, or even there might be a chance of crashing your web server. So in order to escape such scenarios, So what we do? We do store all huge data like movies, player, MP3 players, files, documents, and so on. So that's on a huge size, volume size. We'll store it in object storage. So for us, in our AWS scenario, we had a service called S3, Simple Storage Service. So in S3, we'll create buckets, and for every bucket, we'll attach this bucket. You'll have a URL for the bucket, and whatever the objects that you upload to this bucket, objects are nothing but files. So assume that bucket is nothing but a folder, and the objects are nothing but the files in the folder. Okay, so whatever the objects that you upload on this bucket, for every object you will find an unique ID, is nothing but like a URL for every object. So whenever client wants to upload some video, he'll upload that video from his PC directly to this S3. మనకేం తెలుసు వెబ్ పోర్టల్లో ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఇఫ్ యూ వాంట్ టు అప్లోడ్ సమ్ వీడియో ఇంటు ద ఫేస్బుక్ అక్కడ అప్లోడ్ బటన్ ఉంటుంది యూ విల్ అప్లోడ్ దట్ వీడియో బట్ ఆన్ ద బ్యాక్ ఎండ్ యూ డోంట్ నో వేర్ ఎగ్జాక్ట్లీ ఇట్స్ గోయింగ్ టు స్టోర్ వెదర్ ఇట్స్ గోయింగ్ టు స్టోర్ ఇన్ ఎ వెబ్ సర్వర్ or a database server or an S3 object. So the developer, he'll write a code such a way that whatever the uploads of .mp3 formats or video formats or documents, he'll upload all the objects in this object storage, so that you will reduce the burden on the web server, you will reduce the burden on the web server's traffic, processor, memory. So basically your web server now it's relaxedly works only on serving the website to the clients. So all the uploads and the downloads will be handled by the S3 object storage, and your web server knows where exactly this user, let us assume I logged into my Facebook portal and I wanted to upload some video. So the web server knows exactly where exactly the user Karthik has uploaded the content, and the information, it's like the index file information will be stored on the database server. Okay, it's like you will get the basic static website template through web server, and in the database server knows the information where Karthik has stored the videos and what exactly the video URLs are. So where exactly that data is stored on S3. Okay, this is how we work with simple storage service. So listen the words carefully: simple storage service. So by using this service, we'll store the data, we'll retrieve the data. For every data, or we can call it as in our AWS terminology, in professional terminology, we have to call it as objects. So for every object that we upload in this S3, we'll have a unique ID. For every object we can write permissions on that, so that who have to access this object. Is it open to world? How it is open to world? Just through read permission, or just through read and write permission, or just through run execute permission? What kind of permission you wanted to provide? So who is owner of that object, who uploaded it? So owner should have what kind of permissions? Everything we'll write in object permissions, and we'll configure that permissions in web server code, and we'll store that permissions, the URLs, everything in database server. This is how the scenario works. So apart from this S3, the other advantages of Amazon S3 is, apart from storing the object storage objects, the best part of S3 is you can enable the versioning system on the S3 too. What is this versioning system? Versioning system is nothing but, see, let us assume you uploaded some file to S3. Let us assume that file is nothing but a text file. maybe that test.txt and a file you uploaded to S3, and with some data on it. Let us assume the data may be, hi, I am Karthik. So you wrote this data on this text file and you save the text file and you upload the text file to this S3. So S3 will store this object and it will keep the version as version 1. So later you wanted to modify that object. So again you did some more, you added some more lines, blah blah blah, and you wanted to store this file. So the file name is same. What, you can upload the same file name. No, the second time when you store this file, it will keep that second change, the modifications that you done from the first time whatever you uploaded and the second time you uploaded, the modified changes it will store as a version 2. So like that, for every modifications you do with the same file, it will store it as an version numbers, version 1, version 2, version 3, version 4, like it stores up to n version. Okay, so that's the best feature of S3. So apart from this best feature, the other features of S3 are, you can host a static website on S3 without web server. You can host a static, not dynamic website, just a static website on S3. So what is a static website and dynamic website? Dynamic website uses the database server. Static website uses no database server. అంటే ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఒక HTML లో కోడ్ రాశారండి, ఒక నార్మల్ బ్లాగ్ వెబ్సైట్ అబౌట్ యువర్ సెల్ఫ్, that is nothing but a static website. And Amazon.com, Flipkart.com, those are the dynamic website where the dynamic website contains the content of both static as well as dynamic. So let me open up and show you more clearly. Amazon.com. So this is a static website. How sorry, this is a dynamic website. Karthik, how can you say the dynamic website? And ikkada deentlo both dynamic content and static content unnayandi. Let me see the theme, the background theme of this layer. So every time when you scroll this page, so ఇక్కడ ఈ ఫోటోస్ మారుతాయి కానీ ఈ థీమ్ అనేది సేమ్ గా ఉంటుంది. What's happening? My internet is slow or what? See, the photos changes, the values behind the photos, the price changes, those are all the dynamic content. And so the themes that stores the photos, the values ikkada ee AMD అనేది ఈ నెంబర్ ఉంటుంది కదా 70, 72, 13, these changes, these are all the dynamic content, whereas the static content is CPU manufacturers and type. This is the static content. So here ఈ వెబ్సైట్ లో కూడా when you scroll down, the like number changes. Whenever someone clicks on the like button, see the number changes, and number the values change అవుతున్నాయో that is nothing but dynamic content. So as per the users click on the like button, it will modify. So where exactly that is storing that number, that will be stored in the dynamic web servers. That may be MySQL DB, that may be MongoDB, that may be MySQL DB, what exactly the behind the his web server, what DB is dealing with, we don't know. So like that, in S3 we can store a static website and we can serve that website to the clients. For that we don't need to have this web server. Normal ఒక వెబ్ సర్వర్ డిజైన్ చేయాలంటే, ఒక వెబ్సైట్ హోస్ట్ చేయాలంటే, you should have a Linux or Windows machine. Above that you have to install the web application that serves the websites, maybe Apache or something, IIS 7, and then you'll host the website above that application and you'll serve that website to the world. So here in S3, just you create a bucket and upload your static website to that bucket, so that I said every object that's stored on the bucket will have a unique URL. So with that unique URL, you can map that URL to your DNS server. From the DNS server, you can make your website open to world. So I'll show you these things. Okay, that's then another feature of S3. So let me log into this AWS. And the other feature of S3 is and life cycle. And what is life cycle? So life cycle is nothing but it's like an assume that there is a scenario, you wanted to upload some periodic logs to your bucket, and your application might need those logs for a week or a month after creating. So after that you wanted to delete that logs, so that you'll write a rule in the life cycle saying that, so this for the periodic month, a week or month, after that automatically it has to be deleted. Like that you can define the life cycle for the objects that you store on that bucket. That's another feature of S3. So we'll likely enter into this S3 services. Under the storage services you'll find the S3. Here it is. So let me tell you, S3 is not restricted to any region or availability zone in the region. It is global. This service is global. But while you're creating a bucket, you have to specify where exactly you wanted to create a bucket. But this service is global. So you gotta choose, it is not restricting this to any region. Okay. So as our first time I log in into this service through this new website. So he given us some suggestions here. S3 at a glance: create, add your objects and manage your objects. Okay, I'll create a bucket and I'll name that bucket as, and the bucket name has to be unique, and make sure that that bucket name should not be same with other buckets you created, and it should not be same with other accounts వేరే వాళ్ళు bucket create చేస్తారు కదా, అవి అలా కూడా ఉండదు. The bucket name has to be very unique. Like if I want to create test, it will say test has been already created. someone has took the name test. So try to give a name such a way that it should be different. Like I'll keep it as test AWS 44, and I wanted to launch this in Mumbai region. Okay, good. Create. So we created a bucket in S3. This is what a dashboard of S3. So this is what an bucket. So for on bucket, you can see from here properties of the bucket. By clicking here, you can see the properties of the bucket. Like what is the bucket name, where exactly the bucket is created, and when, the date, the time, who is the owner for that bucket, the root account, and we can keep permissions on the bucket. So me myself can list the content of the bucket, can upload and delete the content of the bucket, and can list what are all the objects that are in the bucket, what are the permissions to that objects, who is the owner, who's not, and everything, and I can edit the permissions. So if you wanted to, let us assume you wanted to add more permissions such a way that everyone can list the content. I mean they can read the content in the bucket. In such case you can add this new rule. Okay, and just click on save, so that everyone, whatever the objects that you upload on this bucket, they can read the objects in the bucket and the bucket itself. Okay, so just you can delete the permissions from here like this and save. Okay, another is static website. So if you had a static code, just here enable static website and upload that code, static content or the .html, whatever the code you had, you can upload that code on this bucket as an objects, and from this endpoint URL, that's an URL of this bucket. By clicking on this endpoint, you can serve that code or the website to the clients through this web URL. For that you have to enable the website hosting. Just clicking on here, and you have to specify me code lo, you'll have a home page. Every code will have an index file, and you have to specify where, what's the index file name, whether it is index.php or index.html or what. And if any problem with your website, sometimes ఏమవుతుంది ఒకసారి website, when you call a website, it pop-ups a message saying that error, you are being restricted, you are not being forbidden, or there is a problem with your, if the server is under maintenance, such kind of error messages. You have anything, just specify that page or that page name, error.html or error.php, and that PHP or HTML page has to be in your bucket. Then it will serve that page to the clients. So by clicking on this enable versioning, so for every change you do on the objects or all over the bucket, adding the new objects to the bucket or modifying the objects in the bucket or deleting the object, for every change that you perform with the bucket, it will keep that change as an every version by enabling this versioning number on that. So, and events, what is events? Events are nothing but, so assume that you want to get notified when someone performs some change on this bucket. See, it's not like I created a bucket and I wanted to name owner Nandi. I created a bucket as I am a root user for this AWS, and I can create sub users on the AWS. Let us assume a team in the office law. There are a team of 3 people and 1 senior and 2 juniors. What basically the senior will handle all the AWS root accounts. So what he did, he created a users for those 2 juniors with the help of some service in the AWS, and we call that service as IAM, Identity and Access Management. We'll talk about this IAM service on the next classes. So what we did, the user created some standard users. So right away in AI, the user to login ayyanu. This is a root user, and by this user I can perform all the operations with all the services. And also I can create standard users on this AWS console, and I can restrict those standard users to some of the services. So what I have created, let us assume we had a scenario where I created two standard users with the help of IAM service of AWS. Guys, are you getting me? నేను లాగిన్ అయిన అకౌంట్ వచ్చేసి రూట్ అకౌంట్ అండి. ఒక సినారియో అనుకుందాం. With your creative minds, please assume there is a scenario. In that scenario, you had two users created with help of this IAM service, and you wanted that users, you gave that users full permissions on this bucket so that they'll host the website and they'll serve that website to the clients. And for every change they perform on that website, or for the change they perform on this bucket or the objects in the bucket, you wanted to get notified. In such scenarios, you wanted to get notified through, అంటే ప్రతి చేంజ్ ని కూడా ఇట్ విల్ ట్రిగర్ యాజ్ అన్ ఈవెంట్ అండి. ఒక ఈవెంట్ అండి. ఆ ఈవెంట్ ఏదైతే జరుగుతుందో బకెట్ తో యూ వాంట్ టు గెట్ నోటిఫైడ్. ఇన్ సచ్ సినారియోస్ యూ కెన్ సబ్స్క్రైబ్ టు దిస్ బకెట్ with SNS or SQS topics. Like by enabling this SNS, you'll get emails to your, or you'll get SMSs to your mobile. Like that you can get notified with the help of this service. We'll talk about this SNS, SES, simple email service, simple notification service on later classes. Just keep in your mind, SNS stands for simple notification service. This service is helpful for notifying the users. మీకు అప్పుడప్పుడు మీరు ల్యాప్టాప్ యూస్ చేస్తుంటే మధ్యలో ఒక పాపప్ విండో వస్తుంది వచ్చి యూ వాంటెడ్ టు అప్డేట్ యువర్ విండోస్ ఆపరేటింగ్ సిస్టమ్. ఏదైనా సాఫ్ట్వేర్ యూజ్ చేస్తుంటే ఒక పాపప్ మెసేజ్ వస్తుంది వచ్చి యువర్ సాఫ్ట్వేర్ ట్రయల్ పీరియడ్ ఎక్స్పైర్డ్, ప్లీజ్ పర్చేస్ దిస్ సాఫ్ట్వేర్. సో వాట్ ఆర్ దోస్ పాపప్ మెసేజెస్? We call that pop-up messages as notifications. So generally we can perform that notifications with the help of a service in AWS, and we call that service as SNS, simple notification service. Even మీ మొబైల్ అబ్జర్వ్ చేస్తారా, you'll have a notification panel. ఎప్పుడైతే మీరు పైనుంచి కిందికి ఇలా డ్రాగ్ చేస్తారో you'll get a notifications and you'll just అలా పక్కకి స్లైడ్ చేస్తుంటారు for deleting the notifications. So from where the notifications are coming? You, let us assume you install a Flipkart app on your mobile and he'll notify you on daily, ఒకసారన్నా రెండు సార్లన్నా he'll notify saying that we had a great sale, 60% discount, please buy today. So how he is notifying? He is also using on the back end some notification service. With Amazon we had that kind of service, and we named that service as simple notification service. We'll have a separate class about this on later. So just for time being, అనుకోండి, you'll get triggering for every change, for every event that performs with this bucket by enabling these events to SNS topic. So how to create this topic name and events? What kind of event? Put, post, copy, delete. Put అంటే ఏదైనా ఆబ్జెక్ట్ అప్లోడ్ చేయడం, మోడిఫై చేయడం, కాపీ చేయడం, delete చేయడం. For every this kind of actions, if somebody does or all the actions, then it should get notified ఏ ఫైల్ మీద, index.html ఫైల్ మీదనా, ఏ ఫోల్డర్ మీద, కంప్లీట్ స్లాష్ అని పెట్టి స్లాష్ స్టార్ అని పెడితే కంప్లీట్ ఆబ్జెక్ట్లో ఏ దాని మీద మోడిఫై చేసినా you'll get notified. The topic SNS topic, and we have to give the topic URL. First we have to create an SNS topic in the SNS service. So we'll talk about this on later classes. Next, tags. Like for every server you'll attach a tag, for every bucket also you can attach a tags. Okay, this is what some basic overview of this S3 bucket. So here basically we'll use S3 bucket for storing an object storage. You'll create buckets on S3 and you'll store the objects on the buckets. So let me open up this bucket. Now there is no content in this bucket. I wanted to upload something. I can upload like this, start upload. Karthik, what you're doing, you're uploading through this AWS Web Console. How can this AWS S3 bucket is helpful to my product? Ante, see, in your code, మీ product ఒక product design చేస్తున్న developers and they had their own website, then they wanted to store from his website whatever he designed. From there he has his own GUI, graphical user interface. From there he wanted to upload the content to this S3 bucket. సో ఇప్పుడు నేను చేసింది ఏంటి, నా వాడు వెబ్ కన్సోల్ ఇచ్చిన వెబ్ కన్సోల్ GUI నుంచి I uploaded the content. Even I can upload this content through CLI mode, or even I can upload this content through Java code. Are you getting me, guys? Any doubts on this? So for this you have to provide the bucket URL. You have to write in Java code the where exactly the bucket is URL, what's the bucket URL, and we have to create one of the IAM user, the standard user, and we have to give the permissions for that user on this S3 bucket. And you, while creating a user, you'll get one secret key and access key. It's like a username and password. So you have to write that username and password on the code, and you have to store that code in web server of your own product that you are designing, or the developers who is designing, so that whenever the user uploads some content into this S3 bucket, so first it will check whether you are you the right person or not by cross-checking the secret key and access key of the user that you created IAM, and that for that user you'll give the full permissions on the S3 bucket, right? And let me tell you, some people might get confusing. Maybe my English is not good for describing this topic, so I'll draw some diagrams for you. Users are nothing but clients, and you had an S3 bucket with Amazon. Okay, and what you did, with the help of AWS IAM service, you created one user. Let us name that user as Ravi, and you given full permissions to Ravi on this S3 service. And while creating a user with the help of this IAM service, for every user you'll have username and password. Okay, so you have to configure your username and password to this web server. So whenever the client loads your website, whenever the client loads the website to his machine, so he'll upload some data in his machine. So on the back end, you have in the code you have to specify where exactly the bucket path, so he'll upload the contents into the bucket. For uploading the contents, whether this user has the permissions or not, that has to be verified with AWS Ravi user. So Ravi ki ichina username password anedi మీ code లో ఉండాలండి. Then only this S3 bucket will check before uploading, oh, whether the right guy is uploading the content or not. So then it will allow the authentication to the S3 bucket, and it will upload the objects in it. This is how you go with architecture side. And uploading the contents, what I have shown you, is through normal GUI. Okay, so how Karthik, how can I go, I am not see Karthik, మీరు చెప్పారు very good, and I suggested the same scenario to my Java developer. So where can he get that code of Java? Ante you can find that code whether you wanted to integrate this S3 bucket with Java or PHP or other languages, Python or whatever it is. So you can find that code on AWS S3 documentation. So here you can see that he divided the documents into different categories. Getting started guide. So in this documentation, he'll tell you what is S3 service, what is objects, how do you write policies, what is static website, so and so. On developers guide, he'll tell you, so if you wanted to integrate this S3 with your Java product, so what code you have to write for put object, get object, for delete the object, for some performing some actions on the object. You'll find that code in this developers guide. And API, if you want to call this S3 objects through API, application programming interfaces. You can find that APIs on this API references with beautiful examples, or console user guide. So whatever I did, uploaded the data ఇందాక upload చేశాను కదా through AWS console. So that thing can be found in this console user guide. Okay. So let me enter into developers guide. How do you want to open this developers guide, in HTML or PDF or Kindle? Amazon Kindle. So I wanted to open with PDF file. Just clicking on this. In .pdf extension, he's opening that file. Guys, आपको कुछ doubts रहे तो, if you had any doubts, just interrupt me and you can ask me in the middle. It's on 624 pages of this developer's guide, and from here you have to read it. Generally మనకు అవసరం లేదు ఈ developer guide. Whenever someone developer asks how to using this AWS management console, like in Java, everything you'll find here, how to integrate, upload the content to Java code. So this is right. So this Java people can understand it better. So that's for PHP. This is for making requests using IAM user using Ruby language. So example code, Ruby code. Making requests using some other temporary credentials with Java. You wanted to go with Java, so how to call the credentials through this, everything. You can find here access key, secret key. What is this access key and secret key? Access key is nothing but like a username. Secret key is nothing but like a password. So normally ఒక user create చేసినప్పుడు Amazon guy will create a username, normal plain text username and plain text password that you have to store in your mind. Apart from this, you cannot keep this plain text username and password in your code, right? So you need some encrypted kind of unreadable formatted username and password, and we'll call that as access key and secret key. Access key లో ఏముంటుందంటే ఒక 36 digits characters ఉంటాయండి. Characters XYZ YZ X M234 numbers and characters. So అవి పెడతారు, they'll store in the code. Okay, this is what about S3. Any doubts guys you had on this topic?
Karthik.
Yes, Madhu.
Yeah, so when you are configuring this S3 box, okay, so do we specify any configuration limit actually? So let's say yesterday you went through that service, Elastic Block service. So there we try to limit some volume for that configuration. Let's say
No.
some RAM or so. So what is the basic in case if my website content has a lot of object storage or videos or PDF content, so how do I specify I mean, what is the prerequisite before I I define myself on creating this instance for the web server?
The first point I wanted to tell you for your question is, he is offering S3 service to us as a SaaS service, software as a service. So backend low, he is taking care of the servers, he is taking care of the operating system of the servers, he is taking care of this S3 application. So he is offering this service to me as a SaaS. So the second way, I don't have to bother about the machine failure, the storage. And the second thing is, you can store unlimited data in the S3 bucket. There is no limit in restriction for storing your data. E size వరకే స్టోర్ చేయాలి, ఈ size వరకే స్టోర్ చేయాలి. The third thing is, for every object that you store in S3, object means the file, the maximum file size can be up to 5 TB. Okay,
Okay.
that's what.
So when you open a diagram there, you see multiple boxes there. So it's like repositories 1, 2, 3 or 5 like that, or it's like what does that represent?
Where exactly you're talking about?
The very first diagram you showed.
The 3 boxes, right?
Yeah, I mean there are multiple boxes there inside that S3 service.
No, that's he's saying that create, upload, and you can serve. అంటే చెప్తున్నానండి, you can create a object, you can create a bucket, and you can upload the objects on the bucket, and you can utilize that bucket అని. That's just a resemble of that multiple bucket. He's
Okay.
going, he's willing to tell, అంటే తను ఒక just ఒక graphical view లో he's saying that which S3 is very simple guys, just create a bucket అనేది ఒక డయాగ్రామ్, ఇంకోటి వచ్చేసి అప్లోడ్ యువర్ ఆబ్జెక్ట్స్ ఇన్ ద బకెట్ అనేది ఇంకో డయాగ్రామ్, థర్డ్ వచ్చేసి యూ కెన్ సర్వ్ దట్ కంటెంట్ టు ద క్లయింట్స్, దట్ కైండ్ ఆఫ్ థింగ్.
Okay.
So here you can create n number of buckets, it's up to you. You can upload unlimited data on the bucket, it's up to you, but the object size that you can upload maximum is 5 TB, and 5 TB is not a small object. Even very big movie with 720 1080p HD video also 5 TB ఉండదు, మా అంటే 1 TB ఉంటుంది. Okay, even like that you can store a picture, a .jpg picture of up to 5 TB, like that. Every object, whatever the object what it is, whatever the extension of the object it is, you can store a maximum style of size of the object is 5 TB. మామూలుగా మీకు రేపు పొద్దున when you go for interviews, or they'll usually ask the question, what is the maximum size of the object that you can store on that S3 service? Answer is 5 TB. Okay, still others, any doubts you had? Bharat, do you have any doubts? No from Kiran. And Hari, do you have any doubts on this topic? So guys, let me introduce Hari. He is a new joinee to our class. From today onwards he will be with us. So any doubts, Hari?
No, nothing yet.
Okay, Hari, I just wanted you to
I just,
introduce yourself
yeah,
to other team members, other class members.
sure. Hi, very good morning. This is Hari Krishna, and I am just starting up today itself.